Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Pieces of Impact podcast. My name is Steve Seeger, and I'm the host here. And if you're new, we like to document conversations with impactful people across business, fitness, sports, the outdoors, among other things. I'm really hopeful that you guys will find a lot of value in this conversation today. I got my guest, Michael Alberse, on here. And Michael, thank you for taking the time to join me.
Absolutely. I'm excited to dive into it, Steve.
Yeah. Let's jump in first with just a little overview of your background, where you're at, where you're going, where you've been. I mean, I think that would be a lot of value to my audience before we jump in here.
Sure. Sounds good. I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina area, and I went to school at UNC Chapel Hill, and I was a Google intern for one summer and ended up getting a return offer with Google. So actually, my senior year of college, I bought an empty cargo van, like one of those Amazon Prime vehicles that you see. And I spent my senior year building it out. So I was just on YouTube all the time and I created this like mobile kind of apartment on wheels sort of thing. So I did my own carpentry, put in an electrical system, plumbing, heat, everything that you need to live in it full time. And then I drove across the country to work at Google in California. Did that for a couple years and just had a really big personal finance base in kind of investing that I did while I was out there. Other things I did was just I wanted to get to national parks with the van. So I had never been to a single national park until I was 23 years old, and now I've been to close to 20. So I've been just trying to hit more and more of them. So it allowed me to invest and not have a commute, get some good exercise in, and then also see a lot of California too. So that was kind of my crazy idea in my early 20s. And now I live in Atlanta with my wife and a 6 week old. So life is a little bit different now, but that's kind of where we've gotten to today. And online, I have a brand called Micro Investing on Instagram and YouTube. And that's where I talk about cash flowing investments and alternative investments that I like to be doing deals with. So that's a little bit about me.
hmm Yeah, I mean, I got a ton to unpack off of that. First is how old are you now?
I'm 27.
27. Okay, so we're
Yeah.
4 years into this personal finance journey. You've built a pretty incredible following on social media, and I think you
Thank you.
provide a lot of value to your audience as well. I'd be curious to hear right now, is you've moved on from the van life at Google into more of you have a house, a kid now. What does your normal weekday look like at this point?
Yes. I still work at Google today. So I used to be on the Google Ads team. Now I'm on the Google Cloud team as a like an account executive. So I'm in sales with Google Cloud until I have a lot of like AI conversations with businesses there. So that is my 9 to 5 that I still work on. I am hybrid. So I go in the office like twice a week and then I'm at home the other days, which is very helpful. But basically, yeah, 9 to 5 time is with Google. And then outside of that, I just try to batch my content as well. And will typically have calls outside of that as well with other investors or, learning more about social media. I try to film my videos on the weekends and I script them monthly. So I have like all these video ideas and then I write them out. And I want to do something fun when I'm recording my videos too. So it's like maybe I'll record this concept when I'm mowing the lawn or washing the car or grilling on the Blackstone. Just want to do some like interesting things while I'm talking about these personal finance and investing topics. So I definitely have to batch things up right now. um, I'm currently on paternity leave, which is very helpful to work on these projects as well as support my wife and our baby boy. So it's been a lot of family time, which is incredible and very grateful for that.
hmm And I would guess that with AI getting extremely helpful over the past couple of years, has that process been a little easier and more efficient with, I guess, structuring out some of that content?
We are working on it. We're working on implementing that into our workflows a bit more. So what
Hmm.
we're looking at right now is, how can we have a really good grasp on the conversations that are happening online? So, what's doing really well on Instagram, what's doing well on LinkedIn or X or Reddit, and kind of scanning that. And then I also have the topics that I like to talk about, which is anything alternative or cash flowing investments. And then once those overlap, like that's a video that I want to create. So we're working on setting that up. And then as well as a little bit more help with like the scripting and hooks. I have a video editor who's really great with these AI tools, and he's been working on building that out. But it's still been a lot of manual lifting on my side, just thinking about every month, like what do I want to put out there, how do I want to what do I want to educate on this month. But we are really going to be ramping up the amount of content that we'll be making in the next couple of months. We're launching onto YouTube essentially for the very first time with actual long form content like you're doing.
Hmm.
So we need to make sure that before we add on another channel and another piece, we have Instagram and TikTok dialed in. So right now we're in the process of trying to get that a little bit more consistent, and buy back some of my time throughout the month.
Yeah, yeah. I am I am curious, and I want to backtrack a little bit back to when you were at Google living out of your van that you built yourself. I think when we spoke back in December for the first time, you were telling me that part of your goal was to hit $15,000 a month in cash flow. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Where did that start? So, like at Google, were you aiming towards that goal at the time? Like, kind of where was your head and what did life look like then as you've grown into where you're at now?
Yeah, I think back when I was in the van, it sounds kind of crazy, but I honestly didn't know that much tactical information on personal finance. But I had a ton of time on my hands when I was just out in California by myself. So that's when I
Yeah.
went deep on like listening to podcasts and watching YouTube videos. I didn't have a Roth IRA opened until I was 22. So it's not like I had these things set up for a very long time. So I also never had a savings account set up. Like I never had a high yield savings account. I really didn't know what I was doing. And so the time when I was in the van in California was more so just like building really good financial habits. So I learned how to max out my 401k and then my Roth IRA and my health savings account. And all that stuff was possible because I had virtually no expenses. It was like a couple $100s a month. And working a tech sales job out in California was like a great arbitrage play. So that was a really big help.
Yeah.
But when it came to like,
Cost of living.
exactly, I mean, it was
Yeah.
just nothing. And so when it came to the $15,000 a month in cash flow goal, that actually started a little bit more than 2 years ago. I read the book, The Lifestyle Investor by Justin Donald, and it was talking all about like passive income and cash flowing investments. And I think a lot of us have this like intrigue along those items. Like, well, yeah, I would love to create passive income, but how do you actually do it? What does it actually take? And I had no passive income at that point. So I was like, I'm just going to document this process online and see how it goes. And since then, I have learned a ton about like building businesses and then also investing in other people's real estate or businesses to try to get closer to that $15,000 a month cash flow goal. And we are not there today, but we are making progress. And it's really just been the last 2 years working on that.
Hmm. What I thought was neat, and I heard you say this on another show, was that you could go about doing this with no posting, no social media presence, and probably achieve it just fine. But when you get there and then you start telling people, hey, like I'm making 15 grand a month passively, they'll probably be like, this guy's a con artist. He's not
Right.
telling the truth. So I think that that's neat that you're documenting it. And there's certainly going to be a lot of ups, but there'll probably be downs too. And I'm sure there already have. So it's cool that you're willing to share that. journey. I think it gives a lot of color to what it takes to get where you're trying to go.
Thank you. And like you said, sometimes it's uncomfortable because you have a good month and then people expect that, just to
Hmm.
consistently go up and up. But
Yeah.
truly, if you have shorter term investments, or I had some really high interest, like private money loans I was doing, like once that ended, my cash flow really dropped. And so then people will be like, "Oh, what happened?" But, I'm still on this journey for the long haul. I wouldn't recommend that people like post all this stuff publicly just because you want to make the best financial and investment decisions for you, not based off of trying to look good online or make progress online. So
Hmm.
that's like a big learning lesson for me. But also, that transparency has come with a lot of other benefits, like building the social media page and people being along for the journey, which has been really fun. So I haven't been alone on it, which is great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I heard that on a previous show you were on, you were at like a 90% savings rate while you were living in your van.
Yes.
And I'm sure with you're married now, you have a young kid and a house. How has that kind of adjusted as the different stages of life sort of unfold?
Oh yeah, it's way different now.
Hmm.
So we have a mortgage, we have a minivan, we have just like a bigger grocery bill. One thing that was crazy about living in California too, I was outside the office and they had breakfast and lunch for free, and then I would grab a sandwich for dinner to eat later. So I had like pretty much no grocery budget, almost no transportation budget, and I had no housing budget. And those are like the big three expenses that really hit you hard, that are hitting us hard now. And so thankfully, by building that like savings and investment base earlier on, it has allowed us to expand our lifestyle more, but we still have a very healthy savings rate at this point. The number I really focus on is like the investable income number. So
Hmm.
you have, of course, your active income, and then you have all your expenses, and your savings is what's left over. But then also, what do you do with those savings? Do you just stick it somewhere with lower returns, or do you invest it that help build that snowball even faster? So that's what my big focus has been on. But there's no doubt about it. Like my expenses are way higher than they ever were before, just as like a single dude living in a van, which there's no way it could have stayed like that for too long.
Did you have any like expertise on building a van setup like that, or did you just figure it out as you were going?
Literally YouTube.
Yep.
Found a good website. It was like a blog website that took them through the process, and it was very helpful because they had some electrical diagrams and other things and layouts. But I really just put in like 1,000 hours into that, and learned a ton through the process. And AI wasn't a thing back then, so it was truly just like digging around on blogs and YouTube. But it was so much fun. I look back on that so fondly. I love to build things physically, and I haven't been able to do that recently, so I do miss that aspect of it.
Hmm. And what is like the all in cost for a sort of setup like that?
So I would say it's very different now. I bought the van lightly used, so pre-owned. It had 13,000 miles, and this was right before the COVID chip shortage. So
Mm.
that was a big issue too. It was really hard to get your hands on a van after the chip shortage. But I bought the van for $33,000, and it was sight unseen. I just went to my local bank and wired the money to this company, and then they sent it over to me, which is pretty crazy. It showed up at my parents' house like 2 or 3 weeks later. And then all in, including the van cost and everything I put into it, it was $56,000 into that van. And
Hmm.
then I lived in California essentially for free for 2 years. And then I sold it for $86,000. So in the
There you go.
meantime, I saved all that rent, invested it, and then had a profit at the end. So that was like the huge financial springboard that really got us going.
Hmm. And from my understanding, your platform sort of really took off while you were doing that, and your social media presence really grew because I think a lot of viewers are probably like, "Whoa, this is pretty neat." Like I think what you're doing is cool. how did you decide like what was worth posting at the time and what wasn't, and like what sort of strategies from a social media standpoint were you using?
There was no strategy. I mean, I was honestly not comfortable posting. I did the entire van build just off of my Instagram stories. And, it
Hmm.
was like my 1,000 followers of high school friends and, random people. And so they were just egging me on, like, hey, you should post this stuff on TikTok, it'd go viral. And so I didn't post anything until I had already been in California for several months. And I was just bored. I was like, all right, I guess I'll put together some videos of what it's like living in the van. And so then I had a couple videos go viral, just because it's like a really cool intersection of, yeah, living in a van right outside of the Google office parking lot. And so that's where it started. But then I also did not enjoy it. So there were a lot of people that, had some like horrible comments. And I'm like, this
Yeah.
is just not worth it. It's like I have less privacy. HR at Google's talked to me. I've been kicked out of the office parking lot at midnight. Like, there's a lot of downsides with it too. And so I stopped posting for a long time. And then it wasn't until I was doing this passive income journey again that I started posting on Instagram for the first time. And then I did kind of a pivot with what I was posting on TikTok. So it
Hmm.
hasn't been a straight line to get here. And I've had to learn the right mindset with posting and just like providing value and having a very long term time horizon on this, because it's very easy to get excited about social media and say like, this is the year I'm going to do it, I'm going to commit, I'm going to post one video a day. But that is a
Yeah.
hamster wheel, and it's very difficult. So you need to be like on the sustainable path instead of getting burned out.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that for a lot of people, getting beat down in the comments like that, it's just like they're not built for it. Like it's just, even
Yeah.
if you're willing to work on it and train yourself, sometimes you're just like, I'm not about this. I don't want to deal with that
Yeah, it's
from
like,
a met.
why am I dealing with all of this anyway? It just didn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So when did you start to really think about micro investing as a real business though?
Honestly, it's been quite recent.
Hmm.
Um, for the longest time, I mean, still to this date, I really have not monetized at all. So it has just been building trust for the long term. And I am so grateful because what I have found is I love this like alternative investment private market space that I want to be doing this for decades. So I know like since I spend my free time researching this stuff, I'm in a great spot. And I also have my brand very aligned with who I am. So I always wear my Life is Good t-shirts. On camera, I wear Crocs. I want to be outside. I love to do yard work. I love to be out hiking. And so if I have my brand be aligned with this, like investing so you can enjoy your freedom and be outside and enjoy time with your family, as well as just like being really who I am on camera, that is what has really allowed me to be sustainable with the brand to this point and for the future. So I get excited about the types of videos that I get to create, which is amazing. And I don't need to be somebody who is like wearing a suit talking about a private credit fund. Like that's just not me. And so I'm glad I get to do it that way. But when it comes to the actual business of micro investing, there's a lot of mistakes, and there's good things I've done in my investing journey, but there's also been a lot of mistakes and like businesses I've invested in and I've lost money. And when people are getting into these like private network deals that you can get from masterminds or alternative investments, most people get really excited and then they rush into the wrong deals. And so it is very important for me of how can I create the best free education possible to help people approach alternatives for their very first time. And then, after that point, I can connect them with like certain communities or mastermind groups or coaching or certain funds. So right now, I am building more of a marketing company and audience that can educate people for free, And then when they are actually ready to take their first step, that's when I just connect them with somebody else who can help carry it out. So I think a lot of that education should be free, but then the implementation and building your team is something that I can help with the connections there.
Hmm. That authenticity that you're kind of referring to is a common theme that I see for platforms that people build. It's like for a year you can post about something that you might not be interested in, but for 10 to 20 years, like you're probably aiming at,
Hmm.
you need to be yourself or you're
Right.
just going to burn out.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of that these days, but to your point about connecting people with the right circles, I think there's a lot of bad actors out there. Obviously, in the alternative space, it's less regulated. Um, what are you monetizing being that person that is like sort of like the affiliate of some sort?
We're working on that. So that's what my team is kind of building out right now. I am working on a free course right now, and it has different levels, like Dave Ramsey's baby steps.
Hmm.
So there are 7 levels, and it's actually in this kind of theme of like an outdoor expedition. So levels 1 through 4, you're essentially like you're enjoying the journey, you're setting up a great personal finance foundation, and
Hmm.
it's just like a nice hike. You know, you're out in the woods, it's nice. But if you want to go from levels like 5 through 7, that's where you're more in the backcountry and it's more rugged and there's less people that have taken that path. So
Yeah.
before you get to level 5, you should really have things dialed in like your 401k match. You have your Roth IRA set up, you have great budgeting basics. Even things like your liability insurance should be in a good spot so that if you get sued, you're not financially ruined by that. So there's a lot of things that go into play before you get to that next level. So levels 1 through 4, it's really like, hey, this is the personal finance app that I recommend. Here you can get a free trial. This is the high yield savings accounts that I recommend. Here's the financial automation tool that I recommend. And then that's with affiliates on the back end. But levels 5 through 7, that's where people need actual professionals in their corner and they need to have more like hands on coaching or be involved in more groups. So that's where the affiliates would be with like mastermind groups that I'm a part of, or it would be like high ticket coaching. It would be connections to CPAs, to estate planning attorneys, getting their entities set up for passive investing. There's a lot of little things that need to happen to get your ducks in a row if you're really trying to scale up your like passive investing business. And so those are all places that I can connect people with.
Hmm. Is this rolled out already?
Working on it in process right now. Yeah.
Got it.
So we are building out the partnerships, and then my next 2 weeks are going to be scripting and filming all of the videos, and it's going to be public on YouTube. So that's what I will be launching on YouTube with is just like this 30 video free course that people can go through.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that's just, and it sounds like an incredible amount of value for no money. I mean, like that's amazing that you're doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I really want to pass along what I'm learning
Hmm.
because I have transparently I have spent tens of thousands of dollars joining other people's mastermind groups that I don't know. The information is always pitched as kind of like exclusive or like these are advanced wealth building strategies that you need to be
Yeah.
part of our club to know. But it's really like this is stuff that everybody should know and have access to. And there's no reason why this like tax strategy database of 50 tax strategies is like shouldn't be behind a paywall. It's like I think people should understand what the tax strategies are because like you have to know them first of all to pursue them, but to actually implement them every single time you're going to need a knowledgeable CPA. And so like
Hmm.
what is the bottleneck here? It's not the education, it's actually getting plugged in with the right, finance professionals. And so I would like to change that a bit. It's also like very exclusive with deal flow and education. So I'm like, let's just blow the doors off of this thing a little bit more and get more people knowledgeable and cautiously optimistic when they're approaching alts. It can be an incredible place to invest, but just so your audience knows, like the biggest risk when you're getting into these private market deals is manager dispersion, which means that the people who really know what they're doing, let's say in the commercial real estate syndication space, they have a long track record, they have this strategy that they do over and over again in their target market, and they know that better than anyone else. So they can absolutely kick butt in that space. Well, they're going to perform really well. Whereas people that don't know what they're doing, but act like they are really confident or act like they have a good plan, who haven't been doing this for a long time, can perform very poorly. So if you just invest in the stock index, you're going to perform exactly at the index level. There's not a ton of risk there of underperforming. But if you are picking and choosing certain managers and operators in the private market space, you can pick some that are really good or some that are really bad. And I want to make sure that people know what to look for before they make that choice. So you're investing in both the jockey and the horse. And so you have to be able to do your due diligence on both.
Hmm. And I'd imagine that network that you've built and that you're hoping you can help others build can make accessing those operators that you're looking for, sort of the diamond in the rough, easier. So I
Exactly.
think that that platform will be extremely valuable for what sounds like it's completely free. So I would recommend anyone listening to check it out.
Yeah,
And
we'll
to
get you
your
in there. I mean, like, and a big benefit too of like kind of being at the center of this is like people will bring deals to me and operators that they really love. And then all of a sudden, like there are more opportunities that I get to look through and then share back with other people. And so like everybody does better working together in this space. Whereas my biggest mistake earlier on was like thinking I knew way more than I did and just picking and choosing certain ones and losing money. So I think the more that we actually work together, it is so much more helpful.
Yeah, there's a lot of groups that where our investors, a lot of them will be in similar masterminds. And it's really interesting hearing on the back end how they work as a team to really dissect the pro forma that
Hmm.
we do underwriting the deal we're buying, and just reviewing every uh, bit and piece of the deal. And there's a lot of value in a group like that because you have 15 people seeing things where if it's just you trying to do it on your own, there's stuff that you might miss. And you could get
Yes.
yourself into an opportunity that you wouldn't want to be in.
Yeah, completely agree. Like you have to be humble in this space and be coachable and ask other people for feedback and to review what you're looking at. I think that's the easiest way to avoid mistakes is just like get a second and third opinion and having a group of people that are also looking at deals and vetting them together, it will save you a ton of money
And time too.
and time. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll catch things you won't.
Yeah. And you were talking about earlier, hiring a good CPA. This is something that I did about a year or two ago. And I mean, I probably don't necessarily need a CPA at a young age. I'm 25. And I think there's less people our age that um, are hiring CPAs. I think it's well worth it. I mean,
Hmm.
the knowledge that I've been able to gain and understanding from being kind of taught by them what's going on with my investments. But I'm getting to a point here. You've, I believe, done the same thing. Can you walk through why you would recommend doing that and how valuable you think that is?
Yes. I mean, I used to do my taxes on TurboTax, like I think most other people have, and things just started to get too complex with
Hmm.
multiple 1099s or K1s, and I didn't understand how different types of income and expenses actually offset each other. So there was a lot of general theory that I had about taxes, but when I actually worked with a CPA and tax strategist, I got a much better idea of how these things actually work together. So it's like, you have your active income, and then you have the portfolio income, and then you have your passive income. And just because you think you have, passive income or passive losses like real estate depreciation, like that cannot offset your portfolio income with your stock account. And so for me, I just thought it was all passive income and could be offset, but that is not true. And these are things that are really helpful to actually work through with the CPA to understand it. For me specifically, I actually started a business about a year and a half ago. It's a digital marketing agency with a partner of mine who was at Google with me in the Google Ads team. And for your personal taxes, you could do it yourself for a while, but when you also layer in a business and have contractors and it's your first time running like business expenses, you want to make sure all that stuff is really dialed in well. And so that's where I actually hired a CPA through the business, so as a business expense, but they also do like our personal tax returns and tax strategy, which is very helpful. So it's where I have gotten so much more value out of the CPA. They do our business taxes. They helped us with a lot of the structuring earlier on, and it's not out of my own pocket. It's paid through as a business expense. And now, I have that person plugged into my life and my investments. And as I'm spinning up new things in the future, I will continue to work with them. And it has just saved me so much headache because the last thing you want to do when you're trying to grow your business or strategize and actually implement your plan is you don't want to deal with all the administrative work of carrying that out. It is just, for me at least, a huge mental burden. I think you need to understand how it functions and you have to be able to vet the right type of professional. But once you have them in place, like it's changed my life. So highly recommend.
Hmm. And I I just heard you talk about starting your own business with another partner. What exactly is that? And can you kind of walk me through what like how that plays into your Google role or doesn't
Yeah.
exactly?
So the previous role at Google, was I was a Google Ads account manager. So I had basically 100 small and medium sized businesses that I would consult with every quarter on how to get better performance out of their paid Google ads. So it could be e commerce businesses like Shopify websites, but a lot of them were lead generation companies. So these are your local service based businesses or lawyers. It was really all over the place. And so right out of college, I learned the very valuable skill of Google Ads and how to grow businesses and talk to a lot of small business owners about their problems and their marketing goals, which is very helpful. And then I left that position a while ago. And then one of my early mentors, he also left Google and was on the Google Ads team with me. And so we decided to spin up an agency, of course, with the skill set that we learned from Google itself, which is typically how a lot of other businesses are started. It's, a skill that you learn in your daily life or from your W-2, and then you can start to do that as long as everything is good to go with your contract, and make sure you're looking at that. But we started that a year and a half ago, and we focus on Google and meta ads to grow businesses. So that's what we've been working on. And at this point now, my partner is fully operating that business, and I am more so a passive partner. So that is another like cash flow stream I've built up as an actual business I control, which is really powerful. And that allows me to then invest in other people's deals and build my next business, which is the micro investing business.
Hmm. I really like how you structure your investments and that lifestyle investor point at the beginning. I'm in agreement with you there big time. So walk me through just kind of like recapping what we've talked about so far. You have different buckets of investments. You got micro investing here, your active income from working at Google,
Hmm.
your passive investment in your business with your partner. But I'm sure there's a lot of other opportunities you're investing in. Hey, are there certain buckets that you kind of put things in to keep everything organized, or like how do you think about organization as you continue to scale your portfolio?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because the worst thing, of course, is to just like be creating a lot more income and then just spend it right out the door. So you want to make sure you actually capture that and can help the snowball roll even faster. So my wife was working as of couple weeks ago, and she just quit, which is very exciting. So I was able to help her leave her job, which I'm so grateful for. But we basically would live off of one of our W 2 incomes. So that would come into our joint high yield savings account. And then we give ourselves a set budget to live off of every month. So our monthly expenses are $8,000. So that comes out of that bucket every month. And then we live off of that money. Outside of that, everything else goes into that kind of passive investment reservoir. So the money from the agency and distributions from other investments like commercial real estate or other small businesses fills up that tank. And then, once you have your next 50 or 100K, that's where you deploy it into the next deal. And then it just like continues to top itself off. So that's how we've been like building that machine of investments. So ideally, keep we try to keep our living expenses where they are, and then with everything else we reinvest most of it at this point. But I think it's really good too to set aside, you know 10% for vacation or trips or something, so that you have that set aside when you're ready to go to your next national park or do something fun.
hmm it seems to me like you and your wife are very aligned. You guys have the same goals. You probably talk about this a lot. My question would be for someone who's younger and maybe dating, looking for a partner. What sort of advice would you have for approaching the conversation? Maybe someone that's in a relationship, but approaching the conversation of finances, where that's kind of a taboo topic for some.
Yeah, I think it's I think there isn't like a tactical thing you're looking for necessarily from a person. Like, personal finance knowledge doesn't mean a ton, because these are all skills that can be learned. Like, money is a game and it's not a natural thing that any of us are born with. So I think it's just important to be on the same page with your partner, be like, have similar philosophies on like how much do you save versus how much do you spend? Like, do you spend every penny in your checking account, or do you like to have some set aside? Do you have any experience with investing yet? It's not that you're looking for very specific answers there. It's more so like, is this person just like curious in learning more, or do they have a little bit of an interest in it? And I think that's important, because you have to be able to have a conversation there. So if it's a productive conversation related to money, that's great. I think you do need to be aligned on kind of like your money philosophy, family goals, and kind of what you're building together. But where my wife and I aligned on really earlier on is vision. And I don't think this gets talked about enough with any couples in general, but it's like, what is the ideal life vision that you're building towards together? So, what does a perfect day in the life look like in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years? Because you have to know that that person is going to change throughout your lifetime. I mean, I have already changed so much in the 5 years that we've been together. And with every life stage, I learned how to become way less selfish. When it was just me in the van, like, I saved all my money, I invested it. I chose how to spend every single minute of my day. Then when you get married, you become less selfish and you're more focused on your family. And then when you have a kid, it's just a whole nother level of your time is not your own, and there's a lot of things that need to, happen for the family and for your child. And so I think you need to know, like, what is that long-term vision you are building towards together, because you want to be building together and not drifting apart. You will change, but you need to be able to change together and know where you're going at the end of the day.
hmm That's great advice. You guys have been in some really neat deals and probably some bad ones that have led you to build this platform and this network to avoid those in the future. What is your best deal that you've ever done and your worst deal?
Nice. Best deal was a pharmaceutical cold storage facility. And there was a family friend who had built this business in Northern Virginia for the last 20 years or so. And then that company was bought. He, waited out the non compete, and then he wanted to do the same thing again in the Raleigh, North Carolina area. So this was actually a startup, but with a very experienced, obsessive team. And it is just a industry with such a high moat because you need a secure facility that can store like not only hospital grade materials, but also like personal, stem cells or vaccines at very specific temperatures and humidities, and be in a lockdown facility with software that can track everything with a really clean logistics chain. So there's so many pieces to this business that there's not that many people in the world that can do it. And so I invested in this. It was I pledged $50,000, and this was the summer of 2023. After all capital calls, it ended up being about $70,000. And I I was going to go to another point there, but like basically the principle of reinvestment is so strong. So in my time at Google, like I was also had a side hustle, and that side hustle made $70,000. And so mentally, I think about living off of my salary and that extra money, I put it all into this one deal. So that's where that 70,000 came from. And it was supposed to be a very long-term hold. I was expecting to be a part of this operational team, honestly, for the next 10 or 20 years. I thought that would be a business that I would be very involved in. And then private equity just came in just a year and a half later with this crazy deal to clear out all the SBA debt, pay off the building, and then to clear the cap table of some partners. And that was a very small minority partner. So they ended up closing that in December of 2024, and it was a 9x return on my capital in that time period, which is insane. That's
Yeah.
never the goal, you know? And if somebody ever pitches you that, you run for the hills.
Right.
But
Right.
it's just like when you're in these really specific industries with incredible teams and there's private equity money there, that's where like serious wealth building happens. So that was my
hmm
best deal. And then I'd say my worst deal, it is still unfolding, but I invested in a distillery business in Colorado with the profits from that pharmaceutical cold storage business. And so I'll be very transparent. I put $100,000 into this business, and it was cash flowing, I would say about $500,000 a year, and I would be one of the partners in there. And I was expecting roughly 30% of my cash back in year one. That distillery business had a couple different arms. So, yes, there's like a tasting room and they have their own spirits, but they also had a bottling business where they would bottle other people's spirits. And that's where the majority of the revenue was coming in. Well, pretty much day one after that business was acquired, all of those clients left, and there was pretty much no income coming into the business anymore. And so, where I was expecting to have $30,000 in my pocket in 2025, it has been there have been no distributions to date, and I am not expecting any distribution from that business until maybe another 6 months. It's been a really tough business to turn around. Thankfully, I have complete trust with the operating team that they're doing everything that they can, and they've never given up, and they're doing everything they can to turn things around. But it's just been a really big wake up call to the risks in small business investments, especially very small businesses. So it has really opened my eyes on the types of businesses I invest in the future. But yeah, that would be the worst one so far.
What is your biggest lesson from that?
Oh,
I guess for future deals that you're evaluating.
I would say just like rigor of cash flow, making sure that it is truly there to stay. A
hmm
lot of things in business can just blow up overnight. Real estate is more consistent. So a lot of my learnings are to focus more on commercial real estate deals when you're getting started, because the worst thing is losing money. Because that $100,000 in another deal, even if it has only returned 5%, like that means that that money is surviving and growing, which is so important. And $100,000, gone out of the hole at 26 years old is just like, yeah, I don't even want to do the compound interest math on what that's worth. So
yeah.
it's like I would
Yeah.
invest in stuff that is really recession resistant and safe with really strong historical cash flow first. So build your base cash flow base with those types of investments before you get into these um, riskier bets. Especially very small businesses are very risky, and I don't think I gave that enough kind of risk or respect when I was taking a look at the deal the first time around.
And like in the last year or two, it seems like your strategy has just been really focused more on that cash flow, and balancing that, I guess, with equity growth at the same time.
hmm
Is that really kind of how and why that strategy started to be developed more?
Yes, I think, and just working with the CPA too is helpful. Not to plug that again, but it's like, I have a high active income with my job at Google, and when I am doing things like private money lending, they can have a great interest rate and great return, but that is still it's really difficult income to offset, and so you're essentially just paying your highest marginal tax rate on your interest income. And so my focus is on how do I continue to grow my equity, but through tax efficient cash flowing deals. And so a lot of times it's like, real estate is what fits that bill where you can get the depreciation, you have cash flow, and your equity grows. You can do all things there. I've also done some oil and gas investing. And so that has incredible year one tax benefits. And then once those wells are drilled, you have residual income streams for years to come after that. There could not be as much equity growth there, but you have to know like what you're getting with every different type of investment is very different, but it's much better to, I think, grow your equity, especially at a young age. But in the meantime, I definitely am looking for cash flowing vehicles because, my wife quit her job and I want to make sure that we have good, stable income coming in from our investments. I am not interested at all in venture capital or angel investing where there are these big risky bets and you get your money back maybe 5 or 10 years later. Um,
Hmm.
it just has no cash flow and very high risk. So it's something I'm not interested in.
Hmm. And looking out, I guess, a couple of years from now, I know in the past when we spoke, you talked about buying a bunch of land in Raleigh, like 100 acres or something. Is that still on
Yeah.
the horizon?
That's my lock screen. That's it would have to be
Hmm.
outside of Raleigh just because it's too expensive. But
Yeah.
yes, our that's kind of what I was referring to earlier with setting the vision with your partner. Like what are you building towards? And for us, it's this life on a farm and land to raise our family and to keep as a generational property. But I think there is big goals are really exciting and it's inspiring to push towards them, but um, not everyone needs to push for, I think, a really crazy vision. I think for people like having a paid off home with incredible neighbors or being able to just be outside whenever you want is just like, that's a beautiful life. So you have to know what you're going for individually. For us, we know we have set a big goal and it's going to take a lot of action to get there. So we just want to make sure that like our expectations match reality and we know how much work we need to put in to get there.
Hmm. There's a Morgan Housel line that I have written down on a board in my room. It's independence plus purpose equals a happy life.
But I
And
like that.
yeah, yeah, it was in his new book. I think his stuff aligns a lot with kind of what you're sharing here, and it's the way that I think about investing, and I think just in general where you want to build towards long term.
I
Um,
completely agree. The Psychology of Money is one of my favorite books, and I have it plugged in the very first video of the course. So it's an introduction video, and it's
yeah.
basically like, money is a tool, and we need to enjoy the journey along the way. It's just this game to play, but like your life is the most important thing. Money is just this made up thing. But I love what you said. Was that from The Art of Spending Money? Is that the new book?
Yes.
Okay, I need to pick that one up.
It's good. I think you'll like it. What would have to be true for you to eventually leave your full-time role at Google?
It would be continuing to build the micro investing business and just have providing even more value to people. So that means connecting people with incredible, you know, financial professionals, creating amazing free education online. It means connecting people with great funds. It could mean a little bit of like capital raising for other people. There's a lot of different ways that it can go. But either way, I have been very cautious to vet everyone. You have to be very
Mhm,
careful who you like hitch your wagon to, essentially. So I'm in it for the long haul. My big focus is on just building relationships with the right people and getting in the right rooms. And so that's what what I've been working on the last year and this upcoming year, and just continuing to make the network more and more valuable. But I have a lot of coworkers at Google and people on my email list that are looking for opportunities in commercial real estate or private equity or oil and gas. And the more deals that I vet through and sift through and invest with myself, and the more people I talk to that are actually veterans in this space, the more I can help connect people with good options. So I never say I'm an expert in this space. I am young, I am a student, and I'm always trying to learn as much as I can. So that's kind of my approach to it.
mhm. I guess in today's day and age on social media where a lot of the stuff that you see is get rich quick, it's a little refreshing to have that long-term outlook that is going to serve you really well. So I'm very glad that you shared that. I do want to jump over to our rapid fire round now and get a couple
Okay.
questions your way. And just to preface this, I say I'm not going to follow up, but sometimes I break that rule, and I do. And I suck at writing these rapid fire questions. Sometimes they don't feel rapid fire, but I'll do my best. Okay.
Okay, let's do it.
Number one, what is the most underrated personal finance habit?
Um, I would say like a fun money fund or a shopping fund.
Hmm.
So you need to set aside a certain amount every month that you and your partner can spend that there's no questions asked. A lot of times we track everything in a budget and you just need some things that are just off the table. Let them do what they want with it.
Hmm. Most overrated money advice that you see online?
I think it is only investing through your 401k or Roth IRA without a plan on how to access it earlier. I think a lot of people mistakenly lock themselves into working their job until they're 60 and they don't keep anything for them to actually exit their job or take a bigger risk in the shorter term.
Hmm. Cash flow.
Yeah.
What is one or two investing books that you actually recommend to others?
I do like The Lifestyle Investor. That's the one that kind of got me started here. I also like that one's by Justin Donald. I like Invest Like a Billionaire by Bob and then Fraser from Aspen Funds. I am getting started on the Holy Grail of Investing book by Tony Robbins and Christopher Allen Zook, which is that's a private equity firm. So all of these have a different angle where a lot of them are written by people who are in this space and raising capital. So you always have to take that with a grain of salt. But overall, I think they're really good to understanding the alternative investment space.
Hmm. What is your favorite type of investment to learn about right now?
Honestly, it's it's oil and gas. I know this is
Hmm.
it can sometimes rub people the wrong way with the like environmental impact. But I think it is just very fascinating all the analysis that they do in the different basins and the different types of materials that they get. And while I love renewable energy, I just think there is so much demand for energy and you know in the world that it is a very efficient form that we'll continue to use, and with everything going on with the war in Iran, it's been really interesting to be an oil and gas investor.
Hmm. And you strike me as someone that is very cognizant of how you spend your time. What is one or two things that you've cut from your week that it was like a time waster in the past?
I would say social activities that I'm just like not that interested in,
Hmm.
especially with the family. There's if there's something that we don't want to go to, we don't, and we don't think about it for another second. I'll also say like weekly calls. Like if you're in a group or something or a pod call that is not serving you, and you just have something that is consistently on your calendar, I don't have any problems with essentially removing that.
Hmm. That ability to say no is a tough muscle to exercise at first.
Yes, yeah.
Hmm. If you had a full day with no responsibilities, how would you spend it?
Definitely outside. I mean, I would want to wake up outside, drink coffee, looking at some mountains, and then go for a hike that day would just be the perfect day. So as long as I'm in the woods with the fresh air, I am happy.
Top three national parks.
Zion first, then Grand Teton, then Yosemite.
Got it. And last question, I wrap this on every episode. What is the single piece of wisdom that's had the greatest impact on you thus far that you hope the listener here remembers?
I don't know if this is from Morgan Housel, but it would be something along the lines of like money is a tool, money is a game. Don't worship it. Keep it in perspective. What is the life that you're trying to build? What are the relationships you want to go deep with? Use money to pursue those more instead of letting it dominate your life.
Hmm. Michael, this was great. Where can my audience find you?
I am at micro.investing on all the social platforms. And then I also have a newsletter. I just do one a month, so I don't want to spam your inboxes, but I break down the actual cash flow that my portfolio is bringing in every month, as well as my allocation. So you can see how much is in like stocks versus real estate versus private equity. So I think that's a really fun way for me to share kind of what I'm actively working on right now.
Hmm. Thank you for taking the time today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this was a ton of fun. Thank you, Steve.
Hmm. See you later.
Bye.